media need to be more accurate in the process of information because there is so many misinformation and fake news around, or what you can say about it?
It's definitely a mixed blessing at this point. I mean, it's nice to have all of the different voices, and it is easy for people to jump into the ring, so to speak, but it puts the onus on the listener to vet people and make sure that the people you're listening to are legitimate. And that obviously has been a challenge. You know, there's a lot of people out there that are pushing lies, and obviously a lot of listeners don't know how to adequately vet these people, and so it's a problem. I mean, it's definitely a problem.
How you feel in the middle of the situation, because there is a division between one side and another.
Well, I think right now it's not necessarily. I mean, like I in general, I realize there's two sides, but right now that's not really the case. Right now we are in a situation, an unprecedented situation, where we really have one side that is fact-based, and the other side is just living in a fantasy world, living in a bizarre situation where they're not living in reality, and that is a problem. I mean, you know, we have so many people who don't know how to sort out between the fact-based reality and this fictional world.
Yeah,
that's what scares me the most.
Yeah, I have to say something at this point because, you know, it touched me. Do you have any close experience of somebody you know that close to you, and they say, oh, you cannot actually talk to that person? I
not really close to me. I have gotten rid of most of those friends. I've just kind of said, this is bonkers. I'm not going there. And but I do know people, not like in person, no family members. My whole family, fortunately, is based in reality. I don't know how I would deal with it if I had family members who were just so far out. I don't know. I don't know what to do. I mean, I honestly and truly, I was just talking with a friend today, and I said, I don't know where our nation is going. Like, how do you survive as a nation when you have a significant portion of your population who are not tethered to reality, and I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I don't know how we move forward. I don't know how we get over it.
Apparently, the people who are like deniers, apparently those people actually has been like this, deniers, before the COVID. You think there is the big hypocrisy, the big liar is connected each other when somebody say, okay, this is the reality, and those people are more vulnerable to listen the liar rather than the reality because they already are deniers by nature, by default.
I think there's a lot to be said for that. I think there's a lot to be said for the idea that these people are already prepped. What really scares me is that this is Fox News has been prepping this for years. Fox News has been radicalizing their base. They've been radicalizing their listeners. And I don't, unless some of the people who they trust eventually come out and start saying, hey, you know, this was all a lie, we knew it was a lie, then I don't see how we're going to get beyond this. I mean, I just don't. And that scares me. So I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know where to go with this. I mean, I truly just don't know where to go with it. I see what's happening. I see historically how we got to where we are, but then I don't know how to. Okay, so I understand how we got where we are, but then what? I mean, how do you move forward? How do you get over this? How do you get these people back into a reality-based existence? And that's what I don't know. I don't have any idea how to get them back into reality.
Well, I suppose people will guess that you actually feel more relief after the election and after the result of this election and everything else. But it seems like you are still don't know how to move forward, because what is you more concerning right now? I mean, you got the vaccine. Are you get vaccinated?
Right. Yep.
Okay. Now, but beside the coronavirus and the immigration drama in the South, what is concerning you in your area or in your country, for instance?
I was really, I knew that the Trump supporters were living in this alternate reality. I knew that, and that was definitely a concern. But I realize now that I was naive, but I really believed that once the election was over, once Biden won, and that's what has happened my entire life. I mean, we have elections in America, and the person who wins the election becomes president, and some people don't like that person, but they always accepted that person was president, and they moved forward. I mean, that's how it has always been. And if you don't like it, which, I didn't like it when Trump was president, but I accepted that he was president. I wasn't working on trying to overthrow him. I was working on the next election and trying to make sure that he did not get elected again. And that's how it should be. But now we have this situation where Trump is not accepting that he lost, and he is keeping his followers riled up. And so they are convinced that Trump, I just heard just the other day that this My Pillow guy is now out there saying, oh, I've got all this proof, and by August, Donald Trump is going to be back in the White House. And no, he's not. I'm confident. I'm 100% confident that they don't have the proof. I'm 100% confident that there was no substantial fraud. But these people believe that. These people believe this lie. And so we've never, ever, as a nation, we've never faced this situation before. Never. And I don't think anybody knows how to deal with it. I think to an extent, what Biden is doing will help. I think the American Rescue Plan with all the COVID relief and this infrastructure bill that they're working on now, I think some of this problem is based in just economic distress, that these people are feeling like the government has forgotten them, the government doesn't care, the only jobs they can get are minimum wage jobs that won't pay the rent, they're addicted to opioids, it's a miserable life. And I understand that. And so I do think that to an extent, the relief that will be felt from the COVID relief plan that's already being distributed and the infrastructure bill that hopefully they will be able to get through soon, I think that, kind of provide people with some decent paying jobs, let them support their families, show them that government can work for the people, and that hopefully will alleviate at least some of the problem. I don't think it's going to alleviate all of it, but I do think it will at least help. And then beyond that, I don't know. I don't know. Beyond that,
do you think?
I don't know. I don't know how we get back into reality.
Yeah. So, do you think those people who lost this situation, they are passive observers? They're just waiting for something more dramatic could happen in the Biden administration in order to act quickly and in the elections, whatever is coming up, or they are.
You mean the Trump supporters?
Yeah,
you mean?
Yeah, they are. For what do you think? They are passive observers or they are active observers? They are just waiting and hiding there, but they are just forget about it. I want to go through my life and I don't want to dealing with the politics anymore, at least for 2 years, you think? Or they are not that way? They are actually hiding somewhere.
I think the real radicalized. Now, there are a lot of Trump supporters who have accepted the reality, the fact that Biden is president, and maybe they don't like it, so they're kind of going along with what historically, traditionally has always happened in America. But there is that hardcore radicalized base that is just they're ready to go. And Trump called them to DC on January 6th, and they went and they murdered and they attacked the Capitol, and they are on standby and they are ready to go again. Now, I don't think that group is huge. I don't think that's a really massive group that are ready and willing to go again. I think there were a lot of people in DC who believed that on January 6th, I think they honestly believed they were going to just a rally. And I think there were a lot of them that were stunned and shocked that the insurrection ended up being such a violent insurrection. I don't think that's what they expected. I don't think that's what they went to D.C. for. And those people are now watching the arrests. They're watching these people going to jail for being part of the insurrection, and they're saying, "Whoa, I didn't sign up for this. This is not what I want." And they are backing off, and they're not going to respond. So there is a group of those people. But there is also a group of hardcore, very hardcore. I call them Trump supporters, but I don't even think it's necessarily about Trump. I think it's more just people who want to blow up the nation, that they no longer believe in democracy. They no longer believe in, the American dream. And they're just out there. All they're wanting to do is just blow it all up. And Donald Trump has been their guru, their person. They've taken him as their leader, and they're ready to go.
Do you think that these legal issues will go forward?
I'm confident that the people who were actually at the Capitol, who were attacking the police, who were attacking the Capitol, I'm confident that the Justice Department is going to follow through with them. They will prosecute them. They will take them to court. They will have trials. And I think they will be found guilty. My concern is that those people are kind of the flunkies, so to speak. They're not the ones who instigated it all. They are the ones who, it's like the mob. The mob boss isn't out there getting his hands dirty. The mob boss isn't the one that's out there threatening and killing people. But the mob boss ultimately is the one who is responsible, but he's not getting his hands dirty. And that's the situation we have now. We have a situation where Donald Trump and Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley and Mo Brooks, and Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell and all of those people, those are the people who are responsible. They were the ones who were out there riling everybody up. They're the ones who were out there spreading this lie. And because they are in a position of authority, because people trust them, people were then able to, and people did trust them, people believed them. And so when they told them that the election was stolen, they believed them, even though there's no evidence. But people didn't need evidence. People were like, I will just believe them because they're telling me that. So I do think that the actual people who were at the insurrection, the ones who were actually attacking the police, I'm pretty confident that they will be held responsible. I am not convinced that Trump and Rudy Giuliani and Ted Cruz and Josh Hawley and all of those people will end up being held accountable, and that concerns me.
Couple of things, legal things and development, even though you don't believe those people will be accountable anyways.
Well, I think Rudy Giuliani might, because he is not an elected official. He's just a person. I think Sidney Powell might. But my concern is the elected officials who I believe very strongly are I mean, I think they're more guilty than anybody else, and yet I fear that they're going to get off, especially Trump. Now, we have had, in our history, we've had quite a few senators and representatives charged, and they've gone to jail. But we've never had a president charged. We've never prosecuted a president before. And even though I think everybody knows that Trump is totally guilty, the question is, you know, you hear about, I mean, these third world dictatorships when the new president locks up the old president and, you know, all the political enemies, and they're locking up all their political enemies and all of that. And the U.S. has never wanted to go there. We've always wanted to have this peaceful transfer of power. And what scares me now is I'm even hearing people now, which blows my mind, talk about the fact that we had a peaceful transfer of power this year. And I'm like, no, we didn't. We did not have a peaceful transfer of power. Trump did not peacefully hand over the presidency. Trump fought it. He incited an insurrection. It was not a peaceful transfer of power. And yet, in the American psyche, people just can't go there. They just can't. They can't wrap their head around the idea that we did not have a peaceful transfer of power. And so I don't know. I hope that Trump and these senators, you know, these other elected officials, I hope they're held accountable, but I don't have high hopes that they will be.
For sabotage this administration and the Trumpists and the Republican sitting over there waiting for and watching the situation from the television and say, okay, you see, I told you. And what you guess, what you reckon about it?
I think what we need, I just think that our immigration approach is very short-sighted. I mean, we have to look at okay, we do have a lot of people coming up from Central America right now. Now, part of that is just seasonal. Every year in the spring, we have a surge of people coming up because they know that the farms need a lot of workers. And so every year we have a certain amount of people coming up, crossing the border. Now, right now, it is, I guess, worse than normal now because climate change in Central America right now, it's tough. I mean, there's areas where there's drought and climate change is just fueling a whole bunch of violence, and it's not going to be easy. And we have to deal with that, and we have to, by just simply saying we're only going to look at just our border and, I don't know, lock people up or whatever it is, that's not going to work. I mean, we need to have a bigger approach. We need to look at why are these people coming here? Why do we have? I mean, I saw today a video of a 10-year-old boy. He went up to a border patrol. He was walking along the road down somewhere by the border, 10 years old, and he's just sobbing hysterically. And the Border Patrol goes up and talks to him, and then he's like, "Yeah, I was with a group, and the group just left me, and I'm all by myself, and I don't know where anybody is, and will you help me? Will you help me?" And he was just desperate, and he was terrified, absolutely terrified, and I look at that and I think a 10-year-old boy who. He didn't say that he crossed the border with his parents. He said he crossed the border with a group, which makes me think that his parents made the decision to send him across the border, knowing that the policy here in the U.S. right now is that we're not going to just send unaccompanied minors back to some other country. We're not going to do that. We're going to be humane. And so his parents made the agonizing decision to send this 10-year-old boy up to the U.S. with a group, and he ended up getting separated. And and when I see that, my heart goes out to him, and I think how desperate are those parents that they saw no choice but to send their 10-year-old kid on his own up to America in the hopes that he would find the Border Patrol and be able to surrender himself to Border Patrol before he died in the desert. How desperate do you have to be as a parent to do that? And that's what I see when I see something like this. I see the absolute desperation of these parents, and I realize that could be me. I mean, I'm fortunate that it never has been me so far, that I have not had to make that decision. I'm fortunate that I have never been put in a situation that desperate that I would have to make that decision to send my child across the border on his own. But holy crap, I mean, these are human beings, and the callousness that some people have toward this is just, I mean, it just blows my mind.
Yeah, and then, mention about those little girls that was dumped in from the wall.
Yeah, 3 and 5 years old. I mean, think about how desperate those parents are. And then I hear people that are just so callous, and they're like, "Oh, those parents are the worst parents on the face of the earth." And I'm like, no, fuck no. Those parents love their children so much that they have made this decision. And it brings me back. I taught in Ethiopia for many years, and one of my students in Ethiopia was a girl from Rwanda. And her parents, both of her parents had been killed in the 93 when there were all the awful ethnic cleansing happening in Rwanda. Both of her parents were killed. She was in a mission with her parents, and the mission was about, was being attacked, and her parents knew that they were going to die, and they literally took this little girl. She was 3 years old, and there were some people on the outside of the fence, and the parents were on the inside, and there was no way they could get out. They knew they were going to be killed, and they literally made the decision to take their 3-year-old daughter, and they threw her over the fence to some people who were complete strangers and said, "Take her and run." And they did. These people took her and they ran, and they managed to get to a refugee camp, and her aunt and uncle were able to find her there, and they moved her to Ethiopia, and the aunt and uncle had adopted her, and then I had her as a student a few years later. But I often think about little Vanessa, and I think about her parents and the decision that her parents made to literally throw her over a fence in the hope that she could live. I mean, that was all they wanted, was for her to live, literally. and what an agonizing decision. And so then to see these people here in America who are just like, oh, these parents are awful parents, they're terrible parents, they yanked their kids out of everything they knew down in Honduras or El Salvador, and they walked 2,000 miles, and they're just awful, awful, awful parents to do that to their child. And all I can think is, no, they love their child, and they are trying to do the only thing they know how to do. They are desperate. They are trying to get to some sort of safety, some sort of life. And how can we be so callous? And I understand we can't accept everybody here, but this is something the world is going to have to deal with. As climate change gets more and more and more severe, we are going to see more and more and more migration.
Exactly.
We're going to see unprecedented levels of migration.
Yeah,
and
migration.
It's something that we have to figure out how we're going to deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. This is happening in Spain as well, and different part of the world. The immigration is a big problem related to the climate change for sure. And now with the COVID,
and it's been happening for forever. I mean, my great grandmother was 17 years old when she got on a ship and left Sweden and came to the U.S. I mean, and why did she do that? She didn't come here for grins. She came here because she hoped that she would find a better life here, that there was something here that would provide better for her than in Sweden. I mean, this idea that people are, I'm an American and so I belong here and nobody else belongs here, and I don't understand that. I don't understand it.
Monitoring the situation, and they know that if you are a minor, an unaccompanied minor entering the United States, it's more unlikely that you're going to be deported or something, and on and on. So now is this situation, and what about in case this situation increased and became a real problem for the Biden administration? We're talking about that.
And I think it might. I could see how. I mean, the Biden administration has been open about the fact that they are not going to just send an unaccompanied minor back to some country where they have no idea. But I think what we have to remember is the vast majority of those kids, as in, I mean, it's something like, I don't know the exact number, but it's like 95, 98% of those kids, the vast, vast, vast majority of them, have family members here in the U.S. Those kids are coming over with a note or written on their skin with a phone number and a name of their aunt or their cousin or something. I mean, the vast majority of them are arriving with family here. And I think what we need to do is to speed up. And I understand that we can't.
Excuse me. Remember, this problem is not only for the United States. It's also with Mexico and the southern border of Mexico. Situation became really dramatic in the south of Mexico.
Yeah. It's not just America, and it's not only the Americas. It's all over the entire world. I mean, this is not just an American issue. But yeah, I mean, we have here in the U.S. we have a lot of people here from these other countries, and parents are making this decision that, here in Guatemala, we are literally starving to death, and I want my child to have a chance at life. And so I'm going to send my child up to America to live with their aunt and uncle or their cousin. And so what the Biden administration needs to do now, and I don't know how to speed this up, but I mean, they need to figure out a way of properly vetting these families. So let's say a kid comes across the border and they have a paper saying my aunt, is Maria Gonzalez and here's her phone number. They have to have some way of vetting that person, and they need to be able to do it relatively fast. And that, I think, is a big issue. It takes time, and they can't just put those kids with this person that they haven't checked out. And that's why these kids are being held in these tents right now, is because they're trying to check out the family and make sure that the family is safe to put the kid with. And I can respect that. I do understand that somehow we have to speed that up. I'm not sure how, but
there's a point. You don't know how. Me too. I don't know how. Try to. You're thinking. You know what? When
right.
the election
comes.
Well,
and there's another big problem that's happening right now is that, because Trump was so anti-immigration and he was so, his entire goal was to try to punish people who tried to come up here. And so because that's what he was trying to do, was to punish these people, then he most certainly was not, he very intentionally did not have humane facilities, and he dismantled a whole bunch of the facilities and processes that were in place at the border. He got rid of them. And so now that's part of the problem. Part of the problem now is that, there used to be more judges. There used to be more resources for kids coming across the border, and Trump got rid of all of that. So it just is going to take time to get those systems back in place. But, I mean, it is something we need to deal with, and it's not going to go away. It's not like we can just ignore this issue and it'll go away. It's not going to go away, and somehow we have to deal with it.
Nancy, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.